listening to the Starting Block Podcast. Guys, this is a show for complete athletic development. The objective here is to give you guys the tools to win, whether you're the athlete, the parent, or the coach. As always, I'm here with my co-host, Chris Scarborough. What's up, bro? How are you?
Hey, good afternoon, guys.
Guys, if you're new to the show, here is how we operate. We have multiple shows within the show. First episode you'll get from us is going to be a bi-weekly Q&A. That's where we take the questions you guys submit to
info@startingblockpodcast.com.
And we will tackle those, guys. That can be anything related to the training, performance, the rehab, the nutrition, the neuro voodoo stuff we do, questions on our guests. We'll tackle all those there. And, guys, I do know that a couple of y'all have reached out to me. I will get back to you as soon as I can. As I've said, I do have a job, but I will get back to you. Don't think I forgot. So I'll get back to your questions. That is episode 1. Episode 2, another bi-weekly episode, guest interview. That is what we have today, and I'll bring our guest on in just a second. But guest interviews, like every other podcast on the planet, guys, that's where we take use episode and connect with our colleagues, our friends that share the same core values and mission that we do from across the country, across the globe, and they're going to share their stories of success with what they do at their gyms, their clinics, their facilities, with their athletes, their patients, their clients. And as I always say, it's an opportunity for you guys, to connect with somebody if you're not in our area. And so we're really proud to see that a lot of you guys are connecting with all these coaches and doctors across the country. It's pretty cool to see that, man. And then your final episode is going to be that quarterly Friday Fire Fact. It's about 10 minutes of me just giving you some real talk on just some stuff that's going on maybe in the industry that caught my attention, just something that might provide some value for you as a coach or a practitioner or gym owner or whatnot. So that's a show breakdown, guys. Remember, we don't run ads at the moment. Not saying we ever won't, but we don't run ads. And all we ask is that if you get value out of this, man, just share the show, please. Just, help us out, bring us a friend, support the mission. This is a mission. That was our objective from day one, was to basically cut through all the bullshit that was out there and bring you guys real stuff from real people that have done real things. And so if you got value out of it, just share the show, guys. That's really all we ask. Not too much. And, that pretty much wraps it up, I think. So share the show. And let's get rolling, man. I don't want to waste any more time because we got Coach Stewart Venable, or Coach V.
Woo-hoo.
What's up, bro? How are you, man?
I'm doing good. What's up, man?
Yeah, man. Excited to get you on. We've been we got kind of backlogged with some guests. I was like, man, we got to get Coach V on like soon, like now. Guys, if you don't know Coach V, he's probably got about 50 different titles behind his name, but I guess your big ones, you're the head strength conditioning coach at Northstar High School, right?
Yep, that's the big one.
Yeah, and
Nice.
You're a 2-time Nebraska Coach of the Year, is that right?
Yeah. This is my second time getting that, and I always laugh. I said I've been nominated for national coach 4 times, but I never got it. I'm always the groomsman, never the groom. So I'm good with my home state.
Very cool.
Yeah. But yeah, man, let's see, Coach, I think I found you, or actually you probably found us right after we came out, and we've kind of, chatted back and forth. And admittedly, I'll go ahead and put it out there in public. I've stolen so much stuff from you, which, by the way, that shrimp exercise was absolutely terrible. I couldn't do it.
I couldn't either. I had to do it for my kids because I always want them to see that it's okay to try and fail. And sometimes they get to an age where they get too cool for school and they won't try something because they don't want to look bad. So I'm like, I'm old enough to be your grandfather, and I'm going to give it a shot. And I fall over on the wrestling mat and they laugh. And I was like, see, nobody's hurt. And you give me a couple of months, I'm going to get this, because I know Chris, if Chris can't get it, he's going to practice it until he gets it. So I was like, I got to get this.
Yeah. So you put some pretty creative stuff out there. I love it, and I take it and use it all the time, and I usually fail at it too. So,
One in particular here lately, Coach V, I believe it was you were on the wrestling mats and they're basically playing tug of war.
Yeah.
They're basically with a loop band around two kids' waist. I'm like, the wrestling room is right beside the room that we use for strength training. I was like, okay, as soon as that room empties out, that's where we're going.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad it's located good for you, because we're the same way. I can open the weight room door, take 2 steps, and I'm into the wrestling room. So it's a nice, convenient place to go for the warm up or the challenge. And actually, the challenge started out as a challenge, and it has kind of turned into a warm up. especially you get to the end of the semester and the kids get a little squirrely on you and you got to try to reel them in. So they love that to start off, man. That gets them going. And then we slide right into the weight room and right into the lifting session.
Nice. Yeah.
Well, Coach V, like, before we get into all the nitty gritty neuro stuff, because guys, if you're, if you follow us, we're kind of the neuro guys, and Coach V's got some. He's right there with some incredible stuff. But before we get into that, like, Coach, for the guys that don't know you, I mean, just kind of give us your history a little bit. Like, how'd you get started in all this? What's your story?
Yeah. So my story is really it's not the conventional path. I graduated high school and went right into the military, like 3 days later. And I was in the Army for 7 years. And then when I got out of the Army, I started working for the Department of Justice. And I ended up retiring from the Federal Bureau of Prisons. I was working at the United States Penitentiary in Leavenworth, Kansas. I worked there for 23 years. And when I retired from there, I was like, I had enough of being around bad people.
That's no joke there.
Yeah, it was no joke. So I was like, let me go do what's been my passion my entire life, and started training kids on the side. And I wanted to go to either Florida or Arizona, but my wife said that we're going to Lincoln, Nebraska. And I was like, nobody retires and goes to Nebraska. You can watch any movie. It just doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't happen. But she's the baby of 12. And so I lost that battle. She said, well, your daughter and I are going to Nebraska, and you can join us or you can go to Florida. So long story, I ended up in Nebraska, and I said, all I want is a part-time strength and conditioning job to supplement my retirement, and I'll be happy, right? And got here and found out they didn't have any high school strength and conditioning coaches. So I was like, man, this is not working well. I mean, Boyd Epley, that's the godfather. He's from here. And so I couldn't believe that. So they said, well, if you go back to school and get your teaching certificate, physical education, then somebody will be smart enough to put you in the weight room. That's what the advisor told me. And I was like, PE, like games and stuff? Nah, I'm a strength coach. And so long story short, I ended up going to school at Nebraska Wesleyan for 2 years, got my teaching certificate, and then I started teaching high school, and that was not as easy as you would think to get into it. You're the only guy in the district with a CSES. They'll just want you to go to every school. Like at the time we had 6 high schools. I said, they'll be fighting over me. Not so much, because the football coaches run the weight room, and I was an outsider. So that didn't go over as well. But I ended up landing a position and then transferred from there about 4 years ago and ended up at Northstar, where I am now. My journey with the weightlifting started as a kid. I'm originally from Virginia, and I'm the oldest of 4 kids, and my mom was a single parent. So when I got old enough to work, I went to work. If you would ask my mother today, she said, yeah, I think he was about 8 years old. He was trying to throw hay, but he wasn't big enough or strong enough to get up on the trailer, so my uncle had to help me. But I got paid from that, so I've worked like that my entire life. So when I got to high school, all my friends said, well, no, I'm mistaken. We were junior high, 8th grade. We're all going out for football practice. So I told my mom, can you sign this note? I want to go to practice. And my mom was like, practice? Like, you want to stay after school and play a game? And I was like, yeah, like all my buddies were KT, they're all going to play football. She goes, no, boy, we're not playing no games. She goes, you get off that bus and you help Ennis Jones and milk them cows, and then you go over and help Buzzy Carwile, and you get up that hay, and then you have him stop by the store so you can bring a pound of hamburger home so we can feed your sisters and your little brother. So I was like, what? I had no athletic career. So for years, I always tell people, I said, I was upset with my mother because she kept me out of the league. Like, I could have been in the NFL if it wasn't for my mom, right? Like, how dare you? I didn't have those kids. You did. Why do I have to be responsible for them? And it's funny because I was stationed in Hawaii, my second tour after I re-enlisted. And the guys come over for the Pro Bowl, and, and they visit the military. Yeah, I maybe a JUCO or community college. I wasn't going to no league. Those are the biggest, fastest, strongest humans I have ever seen in my life. I was like, no need of being mad at your mom. She was right. Go milk them cows, man. You ain't playing no football. So, yeah, that's the long version, John. Sorry about that.
No, man, we got plenty of time. I was curious.
Yeah.
So you just talking about the military a little bit. Yeah. Where'd you serve? I mean, did you just join the military? Did you go to an academy? I just asked because my stepson's up at West Point, and so I'm just interested.
Yeah, no, when Chris said enterprise a little bit ago, it got me because I went to Fort McClellan, Alabama for my basic, and then Fort Rucker for my AIT. And then after my advanced training, I got sent to Alaska, and I was at Fort Wainwright in Fairbanks. I stayed there for 3 years, and then I re-enlisted and went to Hawaii for the last 4 years. And after that, I got out and when you're young, you don't think things through. I got out of service. I was like, man, they work you and they don't pay you overtime. I'm going out in the civilian world so I can get paid for my overtime. Then you come in the civilian world, it's like, nobody's in charge in here. These people are losing their damn minds, man. So,
yeah. Oh man, boy. Well, appreciate your service, man.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
All right. So, you clearly were, going to be, the next Lamar Jackson, and it's Mama's fault you didn't get there.
Right.
I mean, so when did you kind of get into the fitness and the training side? Like, was it when you were in the Army or afterwards?
No, actually, it started before when I wanted to lift weights because my uncle had given me this. The cables, Chris, you know what I'm talking about? They had the 5 springs on it, the stretch cables. You go here. Yeah, he had that, and he had Charles Atlas. He had ordered the Charles Atlas booklets, and he had that. So I started with body weight stuff and the stretch cables, and then there was the bar with the thing in the middle that you bend like this. So I started doing that, and I loved it. And I told my mom, and I was a skinny kid, so I want you to understand. Like, you see me now, and I'm 6'1", I'm 260. But when I was in high school, man, when my kids hear this, they're going to crack up. I was 6'1", 118 pounds. So I'm lifting for all to be damned, right? I'm lifting, and I tell my mom, I want some weights because I need to put on some more weight, right? I need a weight set. So she told me I had to wait until I was 13. Once you're officially a teenager, then I get this for you. So she got it for me for Christmas of my 13th birthday. She got me that old Sears and Roebuck set with the concrete in the middle of the plastic, and it comes with a bit. Yeah. That's
like older than a Joe Weider set.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So that's how I got started. And then when I got in the military, we just kept it going. And I went from thought I wanted to be a bodybuilder to ran into some powerlifting guys, and they showed me the route with powerlifting. I pursued that and competed for 16 years, and found out that's probably not the best for my back with my short torso and my long legs. So
probably not.
Yeah.
What were your totals? What were your best totals?
So my best deadlift is 670. My best squat was 630, and my best bench was 500. At the time, I weighed 250, so I got a double body weight bench. So I was a decent lifter, but there are a lot of guys that just smoked me like I was a cheap cigar.
Wow.
Yeah.
So as far as then, so you came up with in what I'll call a traditional strength training, background, bodybuilding, powerlifting, that sort of thing. So now, how would you say what's different then, or did you start training your kids? This is probably the better way to address this. Did you start training your kids using that same methodology and then change throughout the years, or have you totally, when you started coaching in school, did you had you already changed the way you train as far as like developing athletes and that sort of thing?
Well, hold on. Looks like we.
Yeah, I got you. I was going to say you froze for a moment. Chris, I'm sorry. You were asking me when I started training the kids.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Oh, right. So did you pretty much use a traditional type method, or did you use a more similar method to what you're using right now?
No, not similar to what I'm using now. Whatever I was doing at the time, I trained my athletes that way. I initially started training people when I was in the military. And the first client I had was my platoon sergeant. And he said, hey, can you take me with you to the gym and show me how to lift? And I said, I'm busy. I'm getting ready for the bodybuilding show. I'm just too busy right now. He said, I will pay you. And that registered with me. So I took him to the gym, of course. I'm a meathead, want to be bodybuilder. I take him there, and the first thing we did was bench press, of course. Put a plate on one side, put a plate on the other side. He was a lot bigger than I was. He brought that thing down to his chest, and it laid there. And I helped him get it up. And he goes, ow, my shoulder. I go, yeah, you'll be fine. Let's lighten the weight and go to another. He goes, no, my shoulder hurt, and he left. So the next day he tells everybody in formation, yeah, Sergeant Venable took me to the gym and hurt me. He don't know what he's doing. And I'm telling everybody, when Sergeant First Class Cornish, he's weak. He's a big old weak. But I was so embarrassed that I got my first paying client and I injured him that I went over to the education center on post and I said, I want to sign up for anatomy class because I have to figure this out. This is not going to work if I expect people to pay me if I'm hurting them right off the bat. So that was my first paid session, and that was 1982. And as long as I was bodybuilding, I trained people like a bodybuilder. When I got to Hawaii and I connected with some Samoan guys and they started showing me the sport of powerlifting, then all the clients that I would bring in, I started training them like powerlifters. When 16 years of powerlifting, I go from that to Olympic lifting. I competed in that for 10 years. Everybody I trained, well, you got an Olympic lift. But we still did, we still a squat and bench. So whatever I was doing at the time seemed to be the flavor of the day. It was kind of crazy. I was deep into the bro science.
Sure.
The bro science.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, yeah, you were. And actually, I want to definitely talk about the Olympic lifting because I know you still do it, and I'd like to hear your reasoning why, but we'll get into all that. Okay, so, now you move into the high school here, and you start, working with the kids.
Right.
Because guys, for you that don't know, when I say, Coach V, I mean, he's another one of the neuro guys. I mean, you've probably done more courses than I have. I mean, you've done them all, man. So what was kind of the first eye-opening thing for you there? Was it a Z Health? Was it a square one? What kind of was like, oh, wow, there's something more to it.
In regards to going down that neural pathway, or what made me go down that neural pathway?
Well, yeah, kind of both.
Okay.
What started your journey into this, completely changing your approach to training?
Okay, so by the time I got to Lincoln, Nebraska, I had already worked as a part-time assistant strength coach at Mid-American Nazarene University. That's in Olathe, Kansas. So I was there under Coach Tom Cross, under Coach Whitney Rodden, and I learned proper strength and conditioning, college level athletes, NAIA, but still college level athletes, coaches who are well known and well respected. And they showed me it's not bodybuilding, it's not powerlifting, it's not weightlifting. We use some of those things, but you got to start including the other things as well. And more about thinking about movement and thinking about plyometrics and sprints. I was just lifting. That's all I just pick up the iron. So they got me to where I could program myself, but still I'm under their tutelage, so I used their program. So when I got to Lincoln, I knew what my coaches had taught me. So, horizontal push, horizontal pull, vertical push, vertical pull, hip dominant, quad dominant. That made sense to me, but I was like, this is the first time since I think now I know what I'm doing, that out on my own I can do what I want. So I went through all the systems. I went through starting strength. I went through 1x20. I went through the tier system. If somebody came out with another system, I was willing to give it a try because I wanted to see what was optimal for the high school student. So that's what I did. And God, I probably did that for a couple of years. And I decided that, you know what? When I showed up at this high school, they were literally doing CrossFit. And it was working for them. And every system I tried so far has worked. But as Dan John said, everything works, but nothing works forever. And what I wanted to know was what's optimal for the developmental athlete, what's optimal. And the thing, John, that I wanted you and Chris to know is we had injuries out of the wazoo. You get kids to get stronger, but you also kids to getting hurt. And I was like, man, the injury rates, and they, man.
Usually the answer is, they need to get stronger.
Well, they're hurt because they're weak. We got to get them stronger. And I was like, no, that doesn't make sense. You shouldn't come to me and end up with your back hurting in the weight room because heavy back squats with too much weight and your body's leaning over. And even when I got away from back squats and even just went to front squats, there are kids that shouldn't be front squatting. I couldn't get that part. And that was what I struggled with. I said, I've never had a class that I didn't have a few athletes that had injuries that required surgeries. And I mean, it's not too far-fetched to think that you walking around with kids that have 2 and 3 surgeries on the knee. Or we have kids with hip surgeries now. I'm like, what is going on today? We're operating on the hips. We're operating on the rotator cuffs. We give them knee surgeries at 15, 16. And you know how that argument goes. Well, we're overtraining them. Well, it's overuse. Well, they're specializing early. Be whatever that is, I know it's multifactorial, but it doesn't make any sense that we have these many kids with the injury rates where we're getting better at what we do, but the injury rates continue to climb.
Right.
So what do you? So I mean, we said there's many factors that play a role in it.
Right.
What do you feel are some of the bigger ones?
The bigger ones are that we're stuck in our archaic mindset that everybody's got a clean heavy, bench heavy, back squat heavy, and deadlift heavy, and we're literally entrenched in that, and that's not beneficial for anyone. Kids do specialize early. Kids do have overuse injuries because one sport overlaps the other. You got camps, you got all of this. We can't control that part, and I understood that. So when you can't stop them from doing whatever it is they want them to do or the parents want them to do, but there is something I can do to not make this problem worse. So instead of me being so dog set on we're going to squat at 90% for 2 today, I can say, well, you know what? Maybe you had 2 soccer games and you got a freaking basketball tournament this weekend. It's okay if we do some recovery stuff for you. And I was so dogmatic because if you would ask me then what my coaching style was, I'm very militaristic. I'm a veteran. I'm very militaristic. And you come in and the kids be going up, down, the whistle's going. And you look through the window and you go, oh, it's all uniform. They look great. And I'm killing them. I'm like, this makes no sense, man.
It's black or white. There is no gray.
There is no gray. It's black and white. There is no gray. So that was the thing that got me to saying there's got to be another way. And I know it's not another system. I've tried every system that came out, and I still try another system. But the system wasn't the answer. Or at the time, I was like, I got to find another answer. And that's what led me down that neural pathway.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, cool. So what was that first, the first event or conference or course that you took?
I presented at a course with Cal Dietz. And I asked him what the next big thing was he thought in strength and conditioning. And he said it would be something at the cellular level. And that was prior to RPR. And I was saying something at the cellular level. And I didn't push it, and I should have. And I just let it go as that because I asked him, he answered. I don't want to push him, and I don't want to look like a dumbass either. So I was like, okay, something at the cellular. Yeah,
it's pretty
right.
easy. I mean,
I was like, oh, okay, coach.
Level.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, something at the cellular level. Got it. And from there, Cal was somewhere after that presentation with Dan Fichter, and I heard Dan speak. And I mean, it's like somebody hit a gong right inside of my brain. I was like, this guy is onto something. But I remember Dan, and when Dan and I talked, I told him this. I said, I remember you years ago when you were following Jay Schrader, and everybody was like, Jay is batshit crazy. We saw him on ABC Wild World of Sports doing that stuff with Adam Archuleta. You're going to kill some kids. And I'm like, if he's following the crazy guy, then he must be crazy. So I said, damn, like my coaches said you're batshit crazy, and my coaches say you're batshit crazy. I'm thinking you're batshit crazy. So, and he said, yeah, I get that a lot. And he started laughing. He said, I never really care what people think because I'm getting results. And I said, makes sense now. 20 years ago when I'm trying to get into the collegiate setting, it's not making sense. I got to, stay in line with my coaches. So hearing Dan speak about the brain and prioritizing the brain and not worrying about muscles and that you got to focus on systems really resonated with me. And I was like, man, prioritizing the brain for me is let's sprint first. Let's do plyos first. Let's do the Olympic lifts first. That's prioritizing the brain. And he was like, you're not even close, man. So I was like, can you help me, guide me? And Dan goes, normally I have no issues helping young kids, but when a guy's 50 years old, if he ain't figured it out by now, I'm like, Dan, when you're a young guy coming up under coaches and they telling you it's this way and you want to end up in the position they're in, you believe it's this way. He's the guy that we thought was crazy. So he told me about Sean Sherman. He told me about Matt Boulay. He told me about Z Health. And that's where I started. I started initially, my very first course was with Z Health. That's how I started. And if I was ready, I have a friend that's a chiropractor that does DNS, that neuromuscular stabilization out of the Czech Republic. He is an instructor internationally on that. And he was trying to tell me about DNS and primitive movement patterns and reflexes. And I wasn't ready. Like, it wasn't resonating. I'm like, yeah, all that, the crawling sounds good, but we got to go in and clean some heavy weight. And so I wasn't ready until I was ready. And then Dan, they say when the student's ready, the teacher presents itself. Dan bestowed me with that stuff. And when he leads you to one person, it leads you to 5 other people. And I stayed busy that way.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. Well, so you mentioned RPR a minute ago. Did you go through that training?
Yes. Chris
Okay.
Corfus came to Creighton University in Omaha. It's probably been 8 years now. And so this is after I was already introduced to DNS. And I wasn't ready for that. And we were at a bar in Minnesota. Again, another NSCA presentation, and one of Cal Dietz's assistant coaches was there, and she was telling us about RPR, and I was like, sounds like a bunch of hocus pocus to me. And she goes, turn around, and then she beat me in the back, and then tried to rotate me. Of course, she's rotating me like nothing, and I'm feeling like a punk because, I'm 250 pounds. Then she beat me in the back, and she couldn't move me. I'm like, what kind of voodoo magic is that? And she's like, RPR, and she's like, just keep your eyes open. You'll see it soon when out comes RPR. And then Chris Corfus came to Creighton University and gave the course, and I went and took the RPR course. And from there, it was just, Katie bolted the door because it was no turning back. You said it, Chris. Sean has said it. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
You can't unsee it, right? And Coach V, I was in the original. In fact, Chris Corfus was my classmate. And at the time, it was called Be Activated. It was not called RPR.
Oh, Douglas Hill. You went to the Douglas Hill course.
Went to Douglas Hill. He came to Chicago, and I went to that course. And like I said, Chris was actually my classmate. That was very eye-opening. And you can imagine that here you got this guy, Doug Hill, comes in. He's in jeans. He's got a white T-shirt on. He's barefoot, and it works. I can't explain it. He was the most mesmerizing instructor I've ever had, and just this stuff just works.
Right.
And then of course you go to Sean Sherman, and you get everything just layers on top of each other, and it's like this. It's so crazy. It's like, how in the world did I make it through life without with all these compensation patterns going on? How in the world did I even survive?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely get it.
So when you learn something like, you talk about DNS, you talk about RPR, a couple of these things that just kind of really change your perspective and approach. So how did it force you to change what you were doing? So let's just say you bring RPR back. Like, how did you just start? Did you just start eliminating certain lifts? It's like, no, we're going to spend 20 minutes activating and then lift.
Yeah. So again, always a funny story. I went out to a football practice at my old school, and I asked the head coach, can I have 5 minutes just to show the athletes a couple things I learned at the clinic? Yeah, sure. So I showed them the torso rotation, I think the diaphragm, and glute activation. I showed them like 3 different exercises. And the kids did it. And like Chris, they were like, oh my God, like, what is this voodoo? Like, coach, what is this you're doing? I was like, getting you ready for the game, right? They loved it. 5 minutes. That's all it took, because I only showed them 3 and I was done. The next day, they went out to practice and they asked the head coach, can we do the thing Coach V showed us? He goes, no, get your ass on the field. It's time to practice. And they came back and told me, I said, I'm done. I'm not going to help y'all anymore. So I was done with them. And so I put RPR on the back burner. I think it was probably 2 years before I transferred and went to another school, because me and that coach weren't making it. I went to another school, and then I started again. And in the new environment, the coaches were more receptive because they couldn't believe it either. They was like, I want to show my kids. When do we do this before every game? You do it before every practice, and they loved it. So I show them 2 or 3, and then I give them a couple of weeks and come back and show them 2 or 3 more. So all we really had at that time was RPR. And those guys they hadn't came out with level 3 yet. They knew it worked. They knew it had something to do with the brain, but they couldn't tell you what parts of the brain or why that worked effectively. And at that time, I didn't care. I'm like, this is awesome. It's cool. The kids love it. They bought in. We'll keep going. And then here comes Dan Fichten. He'll go, well, Stu, if you try that, now you got to see Sean Sherman do the square one. Now you got to see Matt Boulay and do reflexes. And, my wife is like, how many more of these courses you going to take before you got to get figured out? I was like, probably until I'm dead. But that's how I kept going down different rabbit holes just like that.
Well, imagine how much Jack Cruz could absolutely blow your mind. I mean, now that's that's a totally different level.
Yeah. When y'all had Dr. Cruz on, I was like, man, that's my next move, because now I want to start getting into light and I want to get into sound. But then I had reached out to you, Chris, and I reached out to John like twice, like, hey, when is Dr. J coming? Because Dr. J is the first podcast I've listened to more than half a dozen times. I just kept listening to him. And your close second for me has been David Buer. But Dr. J was it, man. I was like, I don't care if I have to drive to Minnesota overnight by a trash dumpster. I gotta get this figured. So I was like, okay. And John was like, John was like, just pump the brakes. We're gonna get him here. We're trying to get some logistics figured out. We're gonna get him. And I was like, I gotta get. Okay, I'll give you some time, because I got to tell my wife what this newbie's gonna cost me. She's really might put me out, but I'm dying to learn that.
Yeah. Well, Doc, if you're listening to this, all right, here you go. I'll message you as well, Doc.
Yeah.
But no, we were trying. We just had some trouble getting it lined up, because I mean, you can imagine his schedule. I mean, we just had some issues trying to get it set up for the fall, and then the holidays hit, and so hopefully we're able to revisit it and bring that back. For everybody, because it's great. But no, that is, I'm the same with you. Like Dr. J for me was was my first like, holy shit, I know absolutely nothing.
Right.
Like,
right.
And when you see it, you can't unsee it.
Right.
So.
And then it makes you feel like a dumbass, because you're like, I've been thinking about nothing but muscles. I've been worried about exercise and sets and reps, and this is a whole nother level. Is Dan
like I thought I knew my stuff.
Right.
I was like, I know my stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I think where most of these like Z Health and Dr. J and Sean Sherman, they think input first. Input, not output. They're like, the input will affect the output, not the other way around.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it does. It's a loop, but you're in order to get an output, you have to have an input first. There always has to start there. And so I think that's where the difference is. It's looking at it in reverse or looking at it backwards.
Yeah,
so.
I like the way you put that. That makes a lot of sense, because the better the quality of input, the better the output's going to be. Yeah.
So, all right. So now you've gone through some of that stuff. Then you come into square one, right? And guys, if you haven't listened to the square one episodes, I don't know what number they are. They're somewhere in our feed. Sean came on twice. Great stuff. That's a big system. A lot of different moving parts there. So, once you brought square one into your work, again, I kind of asked the same question. How did that influence you and change you? With your athletes, particularly at the high school level, because I know a lot of our audience are a lot of my high school guys and college guys too. So, what things did you start to change? I mean, after that.
Yeah, I tell you, before square one, if a kid came to the weight room and said, Coach, I have pain here, this is uncomfortable, I can't lift because of this, I'd say, go get on the foam roller, see if you can roll it out. Then today you can get on the recumbent bike or the stationary bike or walk on the treadmill, and then you go see the trainer when they get in at 2:00. That was just a standard protocol, because I average about 30 kids per class. My advanced class is 15, but my other class is about 30 to 34 students. So you don't really have that much time. So when they're hurting, it's just go foam roll. And now it's, okay, what's going on with you? It's like, okay, let me get everybody started. And then, okay, I'm done with attendance. While y'all are warming up, let me get over here and do my head turn. Let me do my square one. This kid's like, oh my God, I can. And I'm like, what did you do to me? And then I liked it. When you can teach somebody that doesn't know how to lift properly, you show them exercise with good technique. It makes you feel good. Look, I've shown them something they've learned. This is what it's all about. When you take somebody out of pain that's hurting, that's a whole different level. I said, man, that's different. That's a different feeling now. So I started doing that. But the funny thing is, at the high school level, now I got a lot of kids going, Coach, can you? I'm like, I'm not a clinician. I'm your strength coach, and we got a class that we still got to do. Go see the trainer when they get here. But I still get a pretty good onslaught of kids. But I don't have to say go get on the foam roller or go see the trainer at 2 when he's in agony at 7 a.m. Or she's in agony at 7 a.m. I can give them a couple of things and go. They're either better. They're all. I've never had anyone not get better. It's just degrees of better. Sometimes they feel great. There's no pain. Sometimes I still got a little twinge, but it's a lot better than it was, and I can move now. And so I'm good with better. And that's worked 100% of the time. I get better, but not always completely healed.
Yeah, you can imagine, I mean, how much doubt someone has just by like moving your eyes and sniffing.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, how'd that work? And it's
Right.
like, that's just nuts, and it doesn't make any sense. But
And then
sometimes
the parents ask you what you did, and you tell them, it's like, yeah, I had him sniff. He's
Right.
it's like, and it's just like it's almost like does it matter? It worked.
Right. Right.
And so
one of my little boys at school, we're out on the track outside, and I did some stuff to him, and I put that on my social media. And his dad saw it, and his dad's like, "Oh, we can do that at the house." And he said, "Man, Coach, my dad just had me looking all up in the ceiling and sniffing, and he didn't know what he was doing. He wasn't testing anything. He was just look up, sniff, look the other way, sniff." I was like, "Yeah, it's a little more to it than that, but I get what your dad's trying to do, man.
Yeah.
He's trying to help you." But yeah, it's different.
All right, so, as we get close to wrapping this up, because I know, Chris, you got a hard stop in a little bit. One of the statements you made, Coach, was something that kind of resonated with me, was you wanted to find what was optimal for, particularly developmental, kids. And, I think developmental, middle school to high school, and quite frankly, some early college kids too.
Yes.
So knowing what having done, been in this all these years, I mean, there's still always more to learn, but like, what have you found is optimal? How do you like to program,
Yeah, so what I found was, number one, there is no optimal. There are many paths that would lead to results. I think what I didn't understand at the time, and a lot of coaches don't, that the body is so complex that there's not one size fits all. You just can't. So with and people always go, "Why do you have those kids touching their toes?" I said, because they're reassessing themselves. Once you understand, whether it's neurotargeting, whether it's I do total motion release, whether it's square one, you have to assess, and then you have to reassess to see if it's working or not. And that's how I individualize my program. Now, John, to answer your question, you take my advanced weight training class. We start out in the beginning with foundational movements that everybody does, and they're proficient at that. They pass that class, and they have a reasonable amount of strength, whatever that is. They get to my advanced weight training class now. They're at the level where I can say, do an explosive lift. You got 8 minutes, you got 10 minutes, and they will do it, and they will retest, and then they know the high payoff drills. They know to do an infinity walk. They know to do a hand flip. They know to do a saccade. They understand these things, and they know that, okay, because I hand flipped today, that video I posted yesterday, the kid hand flipped and it didn't work. Well, twice before that, it had worked for him, different settings. Coach, it doesn't work. Okay, infinity walk. It didn't hurt you because the hand flip doesn't work. It just didn't fix it. So he infinity walk. He's like, hey, it works. I go, yeah. Now, next time you come back, the infinity walk might not work. It might, but it might not. Then you go ahead and we'll try something. We'll do a breathing exercise. We'll do an eye drill. We'll do a vestibular drill. So that the hard part with coaches and with the kids is to understand that we have to assess and reassess to find out if this is beneficial. And if it is, we can keep doing it. If not, we stop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just going to say, I think so often we think that if it doesn't hurt, it's fine. You know? And it's like, I've had people, kids, and John and I have discussed this, whose body goes weak by looking like they're holding someone on second base. Their whole body shuts down.
Right.
When they look towards second base. That's it. That's all they did. They didn't hurt. They just,
right. And you're locked up.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, so why did they do that? I mean, who knows? But it's still an issue.
Yeah, and John, I'll start off with something explosive. We'll do something for strength for the lower body, something for strength for the upper body. There are some things I put in the programs that are non-negotiables. And I got those from Dan Fichter. Until I'm proven wrong, I find something better, I'll stick with that. The non-negotiables are they have to be an isometric or altitude drop in every block. So if we do isos here, we might do altitude drops here. But that's a non-negotiable because I want the isometrics to be the foundation of my program. I've heard you and Chris talk about this before. We could really train athletes. I don't need weight. We could do it with isometrics. We'd run off all our business, but you can feasibly do it. So I have to weave it in there, and I understand that. So I make sure I weave in the isometrics. I weave in the altitude drops. The hanging from the pull-up bar, the other thing. Absolutely have to be in there. At the end, we're going to decompress the spine and your shoulder health because I don't have an athlete that doesn't throw something or shoot something. All my athletes, I think, are overhead athletes. So that hanging from the pull-up bar is a big deal to me. So besides those, I really don't care what else. I'm at the point now where I'm looking at movement way more than anything else. And movement is relative, but how are you reacting to your environment? What strategies are you walk in the weight room and your foot is dumping in every time you take a step? Then it doesn't matter if we front squat, back squat, or do a split squat. We got to get that corrected with your foot dumping in. So that's what I want the kids to understand. We want you to have the greatest access you can in every joint in your body, and that's what my priority is. So when they understand that and the testing and the retesting, that's all I'm worried about. People will come in and go, Stu, do you have a program yet? No, explosive lift. No, find something for your lower body. Test. Did that work for you? Better, worse? No, okay, retest. I just kind of go like that because they're moving so much better, and I have nothing to validate them keeping me on the payroll. I can't show them where the bench press went up 30 pounds and the squat went up 60 pounds. They can see you're not doing your job, but they're moving better.
But I bet your kids are healthy.
Yes. I have no one needing to go to the doctor or have surgery.
And that's why you're on the payroll.
Bingo. Bingo.
Yep. Is that why I'm still here, John? Yeah.
Well, no, you made a great point there. Like, I think even I'm sure you deal with it as well, like I do. I still want to see numbers go up, because it's just ingrained, and I do think there is a benefit to strength. But it's not the end all be all. And I think the sooner that this industry realizes this, that look, kids can't move anymore. So it doesn't matter how strong you get them. They're going to break down.
Right.
And this shift in the industry is happening right now. And I do believe we are all our kind of network, we're all on the front end of this, and we're, taking a lot of the arrows for it, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I hope in 10, 15 years, this is the norm.
Yeah.
Right.
And that it's about movement quality, because there's no other feasible way to explain how some of the greatest athletes of all time were able to do what they did when they didn't even freaking lift. Now there's things coming out saying like Tom Brady literally never touched a weight.
Yeah.
Like, ever.
Yeah.
Now if that's true or not, I don't know, but whatever.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. And that's crazy. I've heard you talk about this de-evolution of society. That is the thing that we have to reverse.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right. So final question here. We could talk shop all day. I still have 100 questions I want to ask you. But all right. So if you can give one piece of advice to the athlete, the parent, or coach, what are you going to give them here in the next 2-3 minutes? Give them a piece of advice.
That the nervous system is king. You have to understand the brain and that it operates everything within the human body. And you don't have to understand how the brain works. You just have to understand that everything the nervous system has control over. So it doesn't matter if you want to get your kids stronger, faster, move better, whatever. The brain has to be a priority. And so instead of looking at TikTok and picking out exercises to do, start thinking about systems. Your respiratory system, your visual system, your balance system, vestibular system. If people would start thinking about systems as opposed to muscles or to numbers, I think we would be a lot better overall. And that's what coaches, parents, and my athletes. I had my advanced weight training class, and I got to make sure they're okay with the video before I post it. We're doing gait analysis. and they have no idea about gait. I'm like, I watch you every time you walk in here, and this is what I'm looking for. This is heel strike. This is med stance. This is push off. Now, I videotaped all of them. They had them all come and put it on the big screen. Now, look, no heel strike started at mid stance, so your body's got to be leaning forward. Almost none of you have any toe off. You're not pushing off anything. So how are you going to get forward? You're going to lean, and then when you get to be my age, you're going to be all hooped over. So they're like, wow, that's crazy, Coach. Yeah, it is crazy. So the next time you're walking, be cognizant of that now, and you do it enough, get enough repetitions in there, come. But I want them to understand things like that if you're walking and your walking is dysfunctional, your sprint is really going to be dysfunctional, and your lifting is going to be garbage. Yeah. So, the brain is king. The nervous system controls everything. That would probably be my message, John.
I love it.
Nice.
I love it, man. All right, where can people find you?
Man, I am on Twitter. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. You find me on either one of those. I'm on the Coach Venable on Instagram, Coach Venable, the #1 on Twitter, and Stewart Venable on Facebook. I post the same videos because my audiences are different on all three. I get most of the coaches on Twitter, some coaches on Instagram, but all of my kids on Instagram. And then the reason I started posting the videos is for the parents and the grandparents, because I have nothing to hide with what I'm doing with your kids. I want you to see what I'm doing with your kids, and that's all on Facebook.
Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome. Man, I love it. Coach, it was great to finally connect with you, man. I appreciate everything you're doing. Appreciate you always supporting the show too, man. Yeah. It really means a lot. So thank you.
Thank you,
and
Coach
thanks for
V.
joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
It's been an honor for me. I loved your podcast since the first day you put it out. I said, these guys are real. It's authentic. They're shooting from the hip like gunslingers. Like, I love it, man. So y'all keep doing what you're doing, man. I appreciate
Absolutely you. Right, man. We jumped in having no idea what the hell we were doing. We're 100 episodes in, and I don't think we still know what we're doing.
That's what I'm talking about. Keep doing it.
Appreciate you, Coach V.
Thanks, Coach V.
All right, guys. Y'all got value. I know it. Go share the show.